In this video, we're going to have a look at how to sketch a straight line graph using the double intercept method. When working with graphs, we focus on a few main coordinates. Two of those coordinates are the intercepts with the axes. That is the coordinate where the line intersects the x-axis and then where it intersects the y-axis. Let's start by focusing on the y-intercept. In our graph, the y-intercept is at 0, 6. Remember that the 0 tells us that we move nothing left or right on the x-axis, but we move 6 units up on the y-axis. This means that any point on the y-axis will always have an x value of 0, because the point did not move left or right, but still lies on the y-axis. Therefore, any y-intercept will always have an x-coordinate of 0. So to determine the y-intercept of a specific equation, just like in our table method, we can substitute the x value with a 0 to determine the y value that goes with it. Similarly, if we have a look at our x-intercept, the y value here will always be 0. This point moved 2 units left, but did not move up or down so that it still lies on the x-axis. And again, we can have a look at any point on the x-axis, and for all of them, the y value will be 0. This is why when we need to determine the x-intercept of an equation, we can always substitute the y value with a 0. To then calculate this x-intercept, you need knowledge of solving equations. So if you want to recap that, you can follow the link in the description. Example 1. Consider the equation y is equal to 2x minus 4. Determine the coordinates of the intercepts with the axes. We now know that to determine the y-intercept, we can substitute x in the equation with a 0. That means we'll have 0 minus 4, so the y value will be minus 4. And therefore, the coordinates of the y-intercept will be 0 and minus 4. Here we also have a shortcut, because when you substitute x with 0, the whole first term will always become 0, and therefore the constant value at the end will always show you the y value of the y-intercept. So you can simply remember that when you have an equation in its standard form, the y-intercept is always 0 and the c value. Next, to determine the x-intercept, we need to substitute y with 0. And now we can make use of our knowledge of solving equations to determine the value of x. So firstly, I'm going to take the minus 4 and add it on the left, and then divide both sides by the 2 that is multiplied to x. This means that x is 2. So the coordinates of the x-intercept is 2 and 0. Question B. Sketch the graph and indicate the intercepts with the axes. So this time we do not need to complete a table to be able to draw a graph, because we already have 2 coordinates that we can indicate. The y-intercept is at 0 minus 4 and the x-intercept at 2, 0. And because we already know that from the standard form of the equation this is a straight line, we can simply connect these 2 points. So our second method for sketching a straight line graph is to determine the 2 important points, the intercepts with the axes, and indicate those. Example 2. Sketch the graph of y is equal to minus a half x plus 4 and clearly indicate the intercepts with the axes. So now we need to indicate the 2 intercepts with the axes, and because we have a standard form for our equation, we already know that the plus 4 at the end indicates the y-intercept, which will now be 0 and 4. To determine the x-intercept, we're once again going to substitute y with 0. And now we can solve x. So firstly, I'm going to take the minus a half x and add it to the left so that it is positive. Now you can even choose to use inspection to say a half times what will give me 4. So then x should be 8. Or you can use the algebra and know that you want to get rid of the divided by 2 on the left, which means you'll have to multiply by 2 on both sides to get the same x is 8. So the x-intercept will be at 8 and 0. No system of axes was given in this example, so when drawing your own, it is important to clearly indicate the coordinates. The x-intercept is at 8 and 0, and the y-intercept is at 0, 4. And now you can draw your straight line connecting the two intercepts. In the next video, we're going to have a look at exceptions where this method will not be possible.